Hello, everybody. Andy Goldberg here. Welcome back to the Founders Chair podcast. Very, very delighted to have on the show today Mel Russell from Outside and Garden Rooms. Mel, welcome to the Founders Chair.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you on the show today. Very excited to hear your story. Can we just hear your personal story first, Mel? Where you're from, what you get up to when you're not at work, family, that kind of thing.
Sure. So I am Glasgow born and bred. Went to school in Bearsden in Glasgow. I've had a wide, varied, intriguing career path. I left school. I wanted to be a children's book illustrator, so went to college and hated it. So I then left to work in Australia for a year, where I worked as a florist, which is another job that I've always done. I was my childhood job was helping my neighbour who had her florist business. So I've always helped in the floristry side of things. So I worked in Australia for a year as a florist, came back, and my career kind of meandered, continued working as a florist, then worked in radio, then worked in an advertising agency. So yeah, it's been a very wide and meandering career. And from the advertising agency, I then set up a digital agency that ran for 17 years, which is still running, before I left and moved on to the garden room business.
That is quite a wide and varied career. And the first thing I clocked was you went to Australia, but you came back. Uh,
I
a lot of
missed
people,
Scotland. What's wrong with me?
you're Scottish born and bred, and
I'm
this is home.
through and through. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So too far from home, too far from family. So I came back.
Tell us your story of how the business came about, and you've obviously had your hands in a lot of things, but what gave you the confidence to be a business owner and go out and do it on your own?
Well, I'd owned a digital agency or co-owned a digital agency for 17 years. Um, so that had been a lengthy process of setting up a business, running a business, managing a business, employing staff. So I had run a business for quite some time before, so I was quite familiar with the process. However, that the business had come to a certain stage and I just wasn't comfortable. So my business partner bought me out of the digital agency. And I say the agency is still going strong. They do all my website, my SEO. And I took a year to do a big refurb rebuild of my house. And it was in that phase I was looking for something to do. And a friend presented the garden room concept to me. And as I say, running a business for me, I've done it before, so I know about the fundamentals of where to start with a business, to the registering the name, registering with Companies House, VAT, HMRC compliance. All these aspects is an area I understand really well, and I know about running a business. The product that I've obviously chosen, or the area that I've moved into, is completely different. That was a complete shift from the design world, the graphic design world, to construction. So running a business for me is the easy bit, because I get it and I know, as I say, the admin, having a good CRM system, having a good database, having a good account system, all these tools are something I do know about. But it was the learning of the product that was the challenge for me.
Yeah, and that's the complete opposite of most business owners I
Yeah,
talk to who understand their product, the technology, the service, the industry, but don't know much about running a business.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is better?
Oh, well, I personally, I think understanding how to run a business is fundamental. If you can run a business, you can run it in, majority of sectors. And I mean, that was one of the reasons that prompted me to set up the gardening business and run it the way that I run it. Because in the year that I took out to refurbish my house, I was working with Endless Trades, and they are so disorganized, and it drove me mad, drove me up the wall, because they couldn't manage diaries, they couldn't manage their finances, they couldn't manage their teams. And from there, I thought, why are you guys getting this so badly wrong? That you might be a brilliant tiler, joiner, plumber, but if you can't manage your business, then it will all fall flat. And it so often does. And that's a lot of the um, aspects of the business that I sort of come up against is people are fed up with dealing with trades who can't run a business. So that, to be honest, the running the business side of things, I think is fundamental to its success. That you might be a brilliant tradesman, and most of them are brilliant at what they do, but it's really, really difficult to manage doing what you do as a trade and running the business.
Because both can be full-time jobs, I guess, and
100%,
can't do two
absolutely.
full-time jobs.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that, and I couldn't. I'm not a joiner. I'm not there's no way I could build my garden rooms and run my business. I just couldn't. It can't be done. The work-life balance, the stress levels, keeping up with compliance, while trying to be on site full time. It just is nigh on impossible. And that's where an awful lot of trades and many people, not just trades, and many people in their businesses struggle, and they drown in all the admin,
Hmm.
whilst trying to keep the actual wheels turning of the project.
Tell us more about your company. What do you do? Who do you do it
So
for? How do you do it?
obviously the key is in the name, outside in garden rooms. We custom build outdoor garden rooms, i.e., home offices, home gyms, art studios, these sorts of things. When I set the business up in 2017, there were very few people providing that service in Scotland. There was a lot of companies down south doing it, but in Scotland there was very few, in the sort of level of business that I have. Did all my research and established that there was a huge market for. It's almost a step on from a conservatory. The conservatories were a big boom in the sort of 70s, 80s, but obviously the practicalities of conservatory are it's too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter. So our rooms are not connected to your house, but they're more in line with an extension from a sort of construction methodology, quality, and finishes point of view. So as I say, yeah, the primary use is home office, and obviously COVID played right into my hands.
Sure. And I was about to ask you that. COVID usually comes up in the conversation when we're talking to somebody
Yeah,
about their business journey, but usually
yeah,
comes up a little bit later when I start asking about the challenges and the
yeah,
woes. But for
yeah.
you, it created a demand because people realized, hey, I can work from home. I like working from home. I just
Mm.
don't have the space.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And the business was registered in 2017, launched to market in 2018. So March 2020, we were finding our feet. I had a good team. We had a good track record. We hadn't stopped working since our first order in 2018, and I thought that's it, game over. The business, I've invested all of this time, effort into this business, and it's going to go. However, quite the opposite. The phones just didn't stop ringing, the emails, and obviously technology was fantastic for me. Platforms such as Zoom, where you can't go and visit people at that, during COVID, you couldn't go and visit, couldn't do site visits. So I did secured an awful lot of jobs through Zoom because or FaceTime or whichever platform was available.
People are walking you around their garden with their phone,
Exactly, exactly. And I would
doing
just say to
remote
them, give me,
surveys.
yeah, step it out, give me a rough measure. What height is this? What shape is that? And I would do a quote proposal, and the job would be in the bag. So it was incredible, and we just couldn't keep up with demand. It was unbelievable. It was off the scale.
Well, how did you keep up? So did you keep up with demand or
Yeah, we
like,
did. It was at that point I brought my sister joined the business in January 2021. She's based in Edinburgh. We're based in Glasgow, but we were getting endless inquiries from Edinburgh and beyond. And with the amount of work that we had in Glasgow, we just couldn't keep up. So my sister came on board and set up the Edinburgh team. So that just meant we had a much bigger reach, much bigger capacity. And in 2020, looking back at my stats, in 2020 we built 24 rooms, and that was including the 6 weeks of furlough, which was all we took. In 2021, we built 69 rooms. So it just shows the uplift in our output.
I guess you get better at it as you go along as well, so you can
More efficient,
streamline
exactly, absolutely.
processes and become a bit more scalable. Uh,
Yeah,
tell me, let's talk a little bit about your experiences as a business owner. So, your sisters come join the company. You had a business partner in your digital marketing
yeah.
company. Um, But being a business owner can be lonely.
Yeah.
Do you have people around you, or have you had people around you who've kind of inspired you or pushed and
Um,
challenged you?
I'm, I think that's probably part of my problem is I am a bit of a solitary lone wolf. Um, and my sister will tell you it drives her mad. I'm not great at I'm not great at I don't know what the phrase would say, listening to other people. Or I'm a huge believer in when you're setting up a business, and I'll tie this all together. Um, when you're running a business, when you're setting up a business, particularly in an industry you don't know, listen to everybody, take everybody's advice. Because I know I don't know it all. I absolutely don't know it all about my product. But I run the business the way that I like it. I run a very profitable business, always have done. Don't even know what the word overdraft means. So I find it difficult. I've never particularly enjoyed being mentored. Um, and as I say, that drove my sister mad because I do it my way, and I like the way that I do things. And as I say, it works for me and it's worked for the business. So have there been any I would say probably not really, no, because I'm a hard one to mentor. But I will listen to those in the trades that know about the product rather than necessarily running the business.
So what's been your biggest learning as a business owner? So surely, like, you might be a sole, can't remember what the
A
word,
lone wolf.
lone wolf. You might be a lone wolf. So there must have been learnings along the way that you didn't learn from a mentor, but you've learned through trial and error.
This job is a huge, every day is a school day. Um, Again, more just from the product and legislation and processes. So from that point of view, I'm eternally learning about my product and how it can be applied and rules that you have to follow. And if a different, we built a nursery classroom earlier this year. And obviously we had to comply with a lot of care commission regulations, these sorts of things. So that was a huge learning curve for us all. But again, from running the business point of view, as long as you keep the business running efficiently and correctly, and you compliant and all the rest of it, then the products can be rolled out. New products can be launched to market while the business is running seamlessly, or relatively seamlessly in the background.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge during the years? And
No question, COVID and staff.
so COVID, let's start with COVID. So COVID
Yeah,
was your biggest opportunity and your big boon
yeah,
market, but it was also your biggest challenge.
definitely,
That's
definitely.
because you could visit home, you visit customers, or what was it?
Customer logistics, supply chain. There was a huge challenge around supply chain, but again, we always say it was a challenge, the supply chain during COVID, but it didn't stop us because project management is our forte. We like to really work hard at project management and making sure all our materials, all our suppliers are all lined up. We were working so far in advance. We could anticipate if there was going to be a shortage. Plasterboard was one thing. There was a shortage of plasterboard, shortage of decking, these sorts of things. But again, we're working so far in advance. It's a case of phoning around every imaginable merchant to try and make sure that that doesn't catch us out. Um, and yeah, we powered through. The other big challenge has been the Ukraine crisis. It's had a huge impact because we clad all of our buildings in Siberian larch, and that has stopped pretty much overnight. Siberian larch cladding came to an end. It cannot be purchased from Russia because nothing is coming out of Russia. So we all had to very quickly pivot to a different type of cladding.
Wow, okay. I didn't expect that. I mean, I figured. So, what is it about Siberian larch that is so?
Siberian larch is an incredibly robust timber. It's a slow growing cladding, and it was fabulous for the garden rooms, and it would come in all different lengths. It had a lovely, lovely finish. It didn't need much maintenance, so it was a perfect garden room cladding. The alternatives are homegrown larch. It's got an awful lot of knots in it, so it's a very different appearance to the room. It's a bit more shed-like because there's lots of imperfections.
Hmm.
Siberian larch had pretty much no knots in it. Western red cedar, again, during COVID, the shipping costs went through the roof from likes of Canada and all the rest of it. So that was a huge challenge. But the timber merchants we were all in the same boat. So it really was down to the timber merchants to come up with alternatives. So as I say, we've all pivoted to a timber that's called thermowood. There are others out there, but the primary one is thermowood, which is a thermally treated timber.
Okay, so COVID, Ukraine. You'd also mentioned team as a challenge.
Staff, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I've always said if you could run a business without staff, clients, or suppliers, it would be a walk in the park.
your staff are going to watch this.
I know they know that. I tell them that all the time. We've got a really good team. I employ all my staff through the books, which again in the trades is quite unusual. A lot of most of my competitors all subcontract, so it's teams that will maybe come in and they give them a set fee for that project, and they're given a time frame to do it in, and that's just the end of it. And then they can move on to doing a house extension, or they can move on to doing loft conversions. My guys are all employed through the books by me. That's all they do. Therefore, they know the quality, the standards, and the time frame. And 2 years ago now, we brought in the 4-day week, which has been a big learning curve for us all, but has worked really well. And it's a great work-life balance for the joiners in that we kind of put the onus on them. You have to get the tasks done in this time frame, because if you don't, the 4-day week will fall apart. But if you do, you get a 3-day weekend, which for most joiners is favourable, because they can either be on the golf course or doing homers. So
Yeah.
that since we brought that in, our staff retention has been fantastic, because that's always the challenge in the trades, is getting good guys on the tools. And we've got a brilliant team of guys who've been with us for years. We've seen many apprentices through their apprenticeships, because I always think that's a fantastic. I'm a huge believer in apprenticeships. So the more sort of youngsters we can bring through the process, the better. So yeah, recruitment is always a challenge for everybody, and what you always find in this world, that has been a big shock and has driven me mental, is you can recruit somebody and they just don't show, or you line up 7 interviews, you get 2 that show, and I don't know why that is, why the trades are so bad. So that's always a real headache.
That's not just trades though, but yeah, it is.
Well, yeah,
It's kind of hard to get inside the head of somebody that has been invited for an interview and doesn't turn up, or has been
yeah,
started. You know,
yeah,
I've seen this happen. We start them on the employment
yeah, and then they
contract.
just don't show up.
It's
All the contracts are issued, signed, and they literally just don't show up, and they ghost you. They don't reply to your texts. They don't, they just vanish off the face of the earth.
if
So
only we could
that's,
understand human behavior.
I know. Must be an app. Must be an app. AI could find out.
Yeah, we have a saying in our company, where there's people, there's problems.
Yeah.
And business would be easy if it wasn't for customers and staff.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to run my own business if I didn't have customer, staff, or suppliers, or
But
HMRC.
obviously you do, and you do it very well, and you do get it, right? You do
Yeah.
understand what it means to look after customers and have relationships with customers, but also like this 4-day week, and you've got a high staff retention of mostly tradespeople, and that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so what's the next big thing for you in your business, Mel? What do the next few years look like in terms of opportunity and growth and challenge?
Yeah. The glamping sector is a huge potential area of growth for us. We dabbled in it recently. We just need to do some more work on our product. Um, and so that's a huge area of growth. And even the sort of more the commercial type market, the nursery classroom that we did, was a fantastic project, huge success. The client loves it, the children love it. And I mean that was a massive project involving many more trades, because obviously there was toilets, there was plumbing, there was drainage, there was fire systems. So that was a much bigger project for us, but it went really well. So the commercial side of things, I think there's a huge area of growth for us. And yeah, commercial and glamping. again, the challenge that is just awful is finding the right um, commercial space to set up the business or to run the business from the right premises. We've been looking for the right premises for a good couple of years, even speaking with our current landlord, and it's like talking to a brick wall. So that's a big challenge for the business is the commercial space.
Yes, because if you're going to want to grow, you need a space that is probably bigger than what you need so that you can grow into it. And
Yeah. Yeah, and the right configuration. We know we need a 4 meter high roller shutter because we want to build inside. We need completely flat ground. We need it's almost like we need a custom built solution because we've struggled for a long time to find the right solution. And to bring our showrooms together. We have showrooms and garden centres, which isn't ideal. Being a small family business, we can't be everywhere. So the showrooms aren't manned. So it would be brilliant to have everything under the one roof. Because that creates a far better experience when potential clients come to visit.
yeah. Where are your showrooms? Do you want to just let it?
We have one in Klondike Garden Centre in Livingston and one in Klondike Garden Centre in Morton Hall in Edinburgh. The one in Livingston was set on fire recently, which has been a big challenge. Although it wasn't set on fire, the hedge to the rear of the building, there was guys partying in the lane, dropped a cigarette, the hedge went up, and the garden room went up as well. So that's been a fun few weeks getting that reinstated.
How bad was the damage?
So it wasn't as bad as first thought. I was on day 2 of my 2 week holiday and I got a phone call to say your building's on fire. Um, and I thought, obviously, just think the worst. But in fact, it was just the whole back wall had to be completely reclad. Some of the roof had to be repaired, internal electrics and paintwork, and the sofa refurbished, cleaned. But really, we were very, very lucky. It could have just burnt the whole lot to the ground.
Oof. That is not a call you want to get. Like
No,
when you
day
own a
two,
business, you get problems thrown at you all the time, but that's
yeah,
not one you really want to hear. So,
no,
well, I'm glad it wasn't
it
complete.
wasn't as bad.
What advice do you have, Mel, as we start to wrap up, for business owners or would-be business owners who are thinking about going out on their own, or who are just starting out on their own?
Yeah, do your homework. Do research into your product, your competitors, a huge amount of competition, research, secret shopping, rope in family members to secret squirrel at the competition so that you know exactly that there is a market, that you understand the market, you understand the competition. I mean, I hold my hands up. I got it wrong when I first launched the business. I thought it was going to be in the big suburbs and the big massive houses. But all of my first 3 or 4 garden rooms came from much, much smaller houses, inner city type stuff. So I was taken by surprise by that. So do your research in your market, your competition, and your product. Do listen to everybody. Don't listen to me who doesn't listen to mentors. Take advice from anybody. Speak to anybody that you can think of who will help you, and have complete faith in what you're doing. If you don't have complete faith in what you're doing, it's going to be a really hard leap. I listened to somebody who said, I've been planning my business for the last 3 or 4 years. And I just don't know when to launch my business because when do I give up my full-time job? I'm not sure it'll all work. And you think, well, if you're not sure it's going to work, the chances are it won't. So unless you've got complete 100% faith in what you're doing, then it's going to be a hard slog. So you must have
Yeah,
complete faith and belief in what you're doing.
you can't have your foot in two camps.
You can't. It's really hard and it's terrifying. Of course, it's terrifying to leave a full-time job with a full-time salary and take this massive leap of faith. But if you believe in what you're doing, then it will work. I took on my first joiner with no jobs on the books because I had to, because joiners' lead times can be 3 months. So I couldn't secure a job, a garden room, and then say, well, we'll be with you maybe in 3 months. I think I'll need to go and see if I can find a joiner. So I employed my first joiner full time through the books, guaranteed his salary for a year with no work at all. So those first 3 or 4 weeks were very nervous. And then the first job came in. But that was because I didn't have a choice. I'd committed to this project, to this business. and I had complete faith and belief in it. Therefore, I knew that it was just a matter of time before the work started coming in.
It's pretty important not to have a choice, isn't it? Because if you
Yeah.
have a choice, then it's too easy to give up. It's too easy not to be 100%.
Yeah, a piece of dreadful advice I was given when we set up the digital agency in 1999. I was given by Business Gateway a piece of advice, or the question they asked us at the first or second meeting was, "What's your backup plan if this fails?" And I was astonished. I said, "What do you mean? I don't have a backup plan because this is it. This has to work. This is it." And I just felt that I thought that's a terrible thing to ask somebody who's about to set up a business, because essentially they were saying you're going to fail before we'd even left the building.
Yeah, wow. I did Business Gateway too when I first started out. I mean, it's well-intentioned advice,
Mm.
but it's advice from somebody that isn't doing it.
Well, honestly, as I say, I just remember being hit by a train thinking, what do you mean, what's my backup plan? I don't need a backup plan because this will work. And I have to make it work. And I'm here for your support and help to help me make sure it does work. So yeah, it is, as you say, you've got to be all in, you've got to be fully committed to it. Because if you're not, your eye will very quickly come off the ball.
Well, that's a really good piece of advice. And for somebody who doesn't like being mentored, I think you'd make a really good mentor.
As my mom always says, JFDI. That was her. That was her. That was always her piece of advice, which I think goes a long way.
But you can't be a mentor unless you believe in mentoring, which means you got to
Well,
allow yourself to be mentored. But no, it's a great piece of advice. That's not advice that I've had on
yeah.
this show before.
Mm.
So it's a different and really good perspective that people need to consider. Don't do it unless you're ready to go all in.
Unless you're all in. Yeah. And then during the business phase, don't be so never take your eye off the new business ball. The worst time to take your eye off the new business ball is when you're at your busiest. And that's really, really hard because you're flying, you're going, this is brilliant, this is great, the business is flying. And then suddenly you've thought, I don't need to focus on new business and sales and that business development. So yeah, never take your eye off the new business ball.
The marketing and sales that you don't do now, it's not going to hurt you for 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So you don't feel it, and then suddenly you find yourself with a dried up pipeline. So
absolutely,
keep the marketing machine going, everybody.
Yep.
Another good piece of advice. I could do this all day, but
I know you and me, but see, I told you talking was not a problem.
But we're out of time, Mel, and it's an absolute delight speaking with you today and finding out more about you and your business. So thanks so much for being on the show. Really,
no problem.
Giving us the
Thank
time.
you for inviting me. It's been a delight, as you say.
And thanks as always to our listeners and viewers for tuning into the Founder's Chair. We will continue to post new interviews on our YouTube channel and Spotify and LinkedIn. So keep an eye out. But in the meantime, just want to say thank you once again to Mel Russell from Outside and Garden Rooms. Mel, thanks again for being in the Founder's Chair.
Thank you so much.